Good afternoon, all. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. It's episode, I think we're on 3, 4. I can't remember now. Whichever one it is, that's the episode that we're on with Crusader and Tumbril on the cards. Question marks about whether or not we're going to get anything concepty, but it doesn't appear like we will. Yeah, let's find out what we've got. Good afternoon to John Chavez, to Ray Lauderbeck, Space Saga, Pilgrim, Tech Tier Zero, and Socially Confusing. Good to see you all. Pleased you could be here. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see like what's in store. I'm kind of frantically refreshing. Just so you guys are aware, I'm sure you've seen it, but just in case you're not, the War Bond at the moment is the Starfarer Gemini, about $30 off, I think. So um, you know, oh. I thought I had the intro music on for that one. Maybe I don't? Question mark. Or if I did, I turned it all the way down. But I'm glad I could perforate your eardrums. I'm pleased, Tech. Yeah. So there's that. Maybe I'm turned up a little bit loud on that. I'll knock it down a notch, and hopefully that'll be okay. Yeah. So we'll see what's coming. Again, I'm not expecting much. I don't think anyone is. But we'll see. Likely, and I say this every single time, will be a small stream. I did check whilst we were looking to see if there had been anything in terms of news on the Idris limited sales, and I checked one place where they said they were going to post it and didn't find anything. I'm just going to have a look and see if they've posted it in the other location they said they were going to post stuff. But I don't think there is. That's what the big white flash was just then. Let's have a look. Big pause. Yeah, doesn't seem to be anything at the moment. So no news on the increased sales. I guess that'll happen if it's coming at all. I guess that will be towards the end. But yeah, it's still saying May 15th, 16th, and 17th the sales. So nothing there that we were hoping for. I tell you what, I would be interested to see is I wonder quite what the with the launch of the the official launch of the attack that we've seen it all, but the fact that it's now flyable. And the Guardian MX, I would be very interested to know what the funding tracker looks like. So I'm just going to jump across in a moment. Once I've got the right page loaded up, let's see what we've got on there. I'm just going to make sure the volume isn't loud. It's that ArcCorp one that starts off really quiet and then gets crazy loud. Okay, let's have a look. Okay. So, not huge amounts of surprise in here. I'm just going to increase the size of that and then put it above my head so we can see. So, yeah, that day jumped to 1.8 mil. So, yesterday jumped to, or 2 days ago, jumped to 1.8 mil. So, no big surprise there. We've not seen anything on the week yet, obviously, because it's the start of a new week. So, we'll see more about that, but expecting it to be yet another good week for Star Citizen. In terms of funding, I don't think it's too I don't think it's too out there to say that whatever's happened with the blades, it hasn't hurt the funding hugely. The one thing obviously we don't know is how many people have turned off and therefore how much better it would have been. But at the moment, it does appear like, at least, at the very minimum, that people haven't decided to close their wallets entirely when they're making almost 2 million in a day with the Mirai and Misk days. So they seem to be doing all right. Sim Curves, hello, my friend. Good to see you. So, yeah. Quick question. If you're happy to share, and obviously you don't have to, but who has got what so far this IEE? What has everyone opted for? Something? Nothing? War Bond? CCUs? What have people gone for? What have people opted for? I don't know what the latency I've got it on. I think I've got it on a low latency, yeah. So either that or people just don't want to say anything. And that's fine too, you don't have to. Just some Susi used mostly for credits, says Chavez. Yeah, I get that. I was kind of tempted to try and pick up something to the Gemini, but because it forms a lot of parts. So I've got two Gemini to Endeavour, a Gemini to Crucible, and a Gemini to Valkyrie at the moment, and I've only got one connecting to the Gemini. So I basically got three starting at Geminis with nothing, no start of those chains. So I was toying with the idea, and at the end of the day, it didn't happen. But, yeah. Space Saga says, Paint and the MX, Tech Tier 0. I've grabbed the MX to test, but just with credits, and Socially says, I've not spent a thing. I've used credits to try the ships. Yes, I've gone to the Expo Hall just before the stream and picked up the MX, so I'm going to go and have a play with that and see how that feels to me. Because, in terms of the design, quite like it. I like the fact that it's somewhat chunkier than the previous Guardians. So yeah, I'm going to have a look. And if it doesn't have a bed, it's not the end of the day. I feel like a lot of my ships, Intrepid, Sulen, Vulture, Constellation, Perseus, Taurus, Constellation, same thing. You know what I mean. Reclaimer, all of those have got beds, so I could probably do with one ship that doesn't have anything, at least it's not going to hurt, right? So it is a fun ship, associated. Well, cool. We'll have a look at that in just a second. I am going to sit here, however, and spam the F5 key, just to see what comes out when it reloads. I'm going to pop us back on chat just for a second, because what I'm thinking is I might go and have a look at... hey, Madwell, good to see you, my friend. I'm just going to have a look at the funding tracker. So I'm going to have a look at what that's saying at the moment. Oh, God. I pressed F11 on the wrong thing, so now the wrong thing is... Star Citizen funding tracker. Let's have a look. Oh, Jesus, that's white. Let's have a look what it says. So where are we now? Okay, so with still Consolidated Crusader, Tumbril, and the Anvil Day still to go, and the remaining war bond, we are now at wherever we are. We're almost at the same place there. So they are almost in the same position. So, once again, not a bad month. And, it does look like things are down slightly, maybe. Although we do have a couple more days to go with more war bonds and whatever else. But that is looking kind of quite... Yeah, they've lost the lead. If you look at where... the previous month is, where April is, they had a significant lead over previous months, and this seems to have dropped off quite massively. I guess they're hoping that maybe the Idris will increase that, but, comparatively, compared to the previous months, maybe I need to retract what I said earlier. Maybe they have suffered a little with the Flight Blade thing. Maybe it's just that, the Starlance attack was pre-sale, and there's more than enough credit probably floating around that, as a lot of you guys have identified, people are now just buying the ships and throwing it in, and not having to worry about, putting new money in. Jennifer said, hey y'all, I'm getting CCU from stock Guardian to a QI. Nice. Socially, not having a bed is my big problem with the MX. I'd like to be able to bed log and not have to go to a space station or landing zone. Yeah, absolutely, and completely understand that. Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it, really? If you look at the pledge stuff down here, the Idris going flyable generated less than the RSI Perseus, and that's no small thing, right? That's still quite a significant amount of money, because the Perseus did really well by all accounts. And the Idris has been on sale for a while, albeit limited, so yeah, interesting. A big influx of cash. Tech says, I suppose they might look more at the actual blade sales. Was the amount they made specifically from that enough to ride the backlash? I'm guessing not. Is my feeling. It's just interesting because I'm trying to figure out what we've got left to come. And I'm drawing a blank. So it'll either be concept, maybe, because there's that area downstairs at the expo hall that is kind of closed off. I think you got vehicle one side and then not the other. So maybe there's something there, but that would be interesting because we already have the mobile tactical center. So 2 ground vehicles might be a bit of a push. We've seen that they're probably not going to do the Legionnaire because of the lack of hacking gameplay, so it's going to sit there with nothing to do. It's an interesting one. Asgard on Friday. Yeah, there's the Asgard. Which, it will be interesting to see how they price the Asgard. Because with the TAC medical, you've got some serious fire support. You've got space for a lot of crew. You've got space in the back, as we've seen for those Atlas things. And the Asgard's going to have space for vehicles as well. And look, when they say heavy hitters, it looks clearly like it's got enough size for, or enough inside for a Tonk. So that'll make it interesting. I'm sure the Spartan will fit, although I haven't confirmed that. So, yeah. Not having the ability to fit in the Polaris or fly out of the front of an Idris is a problem for the MX. It needs shorter landing gear. Yeah, the interior is the reason I went Vanguard instead of Scorpius. Yeah, I get that 100% space. Tech says, in response to space, oh, that's interesting. I doubt much more in the game will have the clearance of the Idris, so that's pretty limiting. Yeah. Hey, Neilby, good to see you. Jedi Drifter says, the MX doesn't fit into many ships. Not even the Polaris front, only the back door. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see whether or not that affects, or people end up CCUing from it, or complaining and they end up fixing the landing gear. I don't know. Because that, without the bed, right, that's the issue. It's not having the bed is fine. Then not fitting in ships to be carried around as well is now a little bit more problematic. If it's 5 more, I'm going to grab it. The TAC is too slow and not working for me. I'm more solo in that group. It fits in the 890 jump. Well, you'd hope so. If it doesn't fit in the 890 jumps forward hangar, there are problems. Let's have a look, because I think we're pretty much on time now. There we go. We're in. Oh no, we're not. It spoofed me. It spoofed me completely. We're still on Consolidated. Crusader Industries. Here we go. Let's see what so the Ares Inferno is the Warbond daily deal. Let's have a look at what that's sitting at. So $250 normal, so only, again, a $15. So, okay, it comes with the insurance, but we've seen that before, and we've seen much better discounts. So, again, it strikes me as being a little bit stingy, right? It's a war bond, so you don't have to worry people using credit. Offering a little bit more of a discount, or, you know, by a little bit more, I mean offering the same sort of level discounts we've seen in previous years. You know, this alongside the flight blades, it doesn't read well, and people could interpret it very, very poorly. Not just in terms of CIG being stingy, but is there something going on in the background that people need to be concerned about? So, yeah. A lot of wasted space in the MX, says Jedi. Yeah. So there's that. Not anything particularly exciting in that lineup, and Tumbril, I would imagine, very much the same thing. Cyclone AA, fine. MT, RN, TR, Nova, Storm, Storm AA. Okay. Well, that's that then. Again, the weapon kit, not loving the fact that that's being sold, but there is that. So, unsurprisingly, not a huge day. You know, it's not, and it was never going to be, right? I'm just going to turn that down slightly because it's loud. You know, it's not a... There we go. Just going to play with my audio levels a little bit because I can't hear myself think. So yeah, not huge. No, the discount isn't great. It really isn't. There's been a lot better in the past, unfortunately. I mean, there's nothing else. Yeah, it's just the Inferno that there's the upgrade. Yeah. It's really hard, isn't it? You kind of come in, you're like, hey, we're going to talk about stuff. And then that happens, and you're like, don't know quite what they want me to do with that. You know, all I can really say about the Ares is that obviously we've got some indication now that apparently that you know, size 4 weapons will do some damage to cap ship armor. Size 5 and above will do normal. Size 3 and below won't do squat. So you know, it puts size 7 weapons. You know, it lets us know where they sit. So both the Ares and the Inferno and the Ion variants of the Ares will be somewhat useful, but you know, yeah, that's like, hey Jay Grizz, yeah, I mean possibly, you know, my claim wasn't that they need the money. My claim was that it reads poorly and people could interpret it poorly. Do you know what I mean? You know, because the other claim that would be made if they weren't selling things like flight blades would be, well, hey, they'll just start selling other stuff other than ships and paints and FPS armor and weapons, which they have started doing. So I don't know. It feels maybe not like they're in any sort of financial trouble. It feels a bit cynical though. You know, to cut down the discount and stuff. After all, it is a war bond, so you know, it's not like people are using store credit for it, but yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, Jaggers, I get that. I mean, they are doing another set of limited sales for the Idris because of the technical problems they've had. But yeah, I mean, I think that was my kind of big question, was that now that it was in the verse, did they need to keep it hull limited? But I guess if we take them at their word, and what they're trying to do is trying to stop the verse from being full of all the most advanced ships from the moment, you know, the game goes launch, whatever the hell that is and looks like, then yeah, I get why they maybe wouldn't. But yeah. Tech says, as I said on Friday, nothing makes your Ares feel impotent like bringing it to hunt the Polaris with 2 Idrises on your team. It feels like a pea shooter. Yeah, I mean, and it's going to, right? It's very clear that the intention for those cap ships is that you don't kill them. You know, the whole point of the Ares is that it hurts, and that it gets through the armor and starts damaging those components much quicker. So, yeah, we'll see. In 3 months, everyone will get Blades in game with UEC. So no, next month, Jedi. Next month, it comes. And it does look cool. You're right. Yeah. Anyone think we are getting a concept sale on Drake Day? Interesting. If it was going to be a concept, Neil, what would you like to see, or what do you think it is? Not saying that you do think it's one, but you know what. Just posing the question either way. Artek says, I don't like the guilt trip Xylo gave of look how much work we're doing now when the majority of our funds were going into Squadron 42 before while PU was lacking. Was it a guilt trip? I might not have seen the same thing. But yeah. Yeah. So, there's that. Drake, large refining ship. Interesting, Neil. Interesting, I like the idea. Ares is never meant to solo a capital ship. Shoot that. It's just supposed to start hurting, right? We saw when they talked at Con 42 that what they were trying to do was, have this first iteration of armor is going to be basically just like a health bar on a health bar. So you get through that. Obviously, the whole idea of the Ares is it gets through the armor quicker and then starts poking holes in components. Or the crew. That works too. But yeah. The way he worded it was, well, we did this because we needed more funding to keep all this work and patches we're doing now going forward. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The bit that I don't like about it is the bit that I've said this before. The bit that I'm really not keen on is the fact that we got, it's not, flight blades aren't a gameplay loop in of themselves. They modify how flight happens, right? Whatever you're doing flying, that, even if you're just going from A to B, the speed increase one may be useful to you. The bit that I don't like is we've had this before. Mining modules, mining laser heads, the gadgets, all that sort of stuff. They all adjust mining gameplay. They're not a gameplay loop in and of themselves. You still need a mining ship and all that sort of stuff. They didn't charge for any of that, so why are they charging for flight blades? It seems like a step into, and all the arguments we've got now about, hey, they're just charging it, whatever, we could have applied to mining modules and mining heads and well, any component that goes into your ship, right? The fact that they're not being charged or not being sold, and now they are, now they've sold something like that, kind of indicates, I think, to me that maybe they're looking at doing this across the board and it will be more and more components, not just blades. Don't know. It's just a guess, but I'm not a fan of going in there because there's all the other, it's the risk reward stuff, right? What's the problem with risking a ship when you've got all of your, or, the majority of your components on LTI? When you're going to get it back every single time because you bought it, you can't lose it. So yeah. Artek says, it comes down to me, well, what about before when all the devs were working on Squadron 42? They weren't selling components, but now they're working on the PU. They're trying to milk us for everything and anything. Yeah, I mean, it might well be, that, because bearing in mind, so the key thing here with the financials is we're 2 years behind, right? We know how much money they've made. What we don't see is the outgoing, the expenditure. And because of the way the financials work over here, obviously, Robert Space Industries UK is required to submit a monthly report. That's the one we got a little while ago that says 20 million loss, right? The key thing to remember there is, well, two things. First off, that is for the UK, not the Cloud Imperium Games group. That's just CIG UK, or ISI UK, I can't remember what they called themselves. The other part is that a loss helps them in the UK. At the moment, up until 2027 April, because of the way tax credits are working in this country specifically for video games, if they post a loss they get to claim up to 25% of the loss from the British government. So 20 million loss, they're getting 5 mil from the British government. Ta-da! Voodoo math in action, boys. This is how it all works. Yeah, far beyond the mortal ken of mere sheep like you and I. Saying that, there's a bug on the Idris currently where the power plants at the rear are really low HP, so there's only time an Ares can do it. Is this patch? Nice. Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think access to the ship is really easy at the moment. They've not got that controlled. People seem to be getting on board all the way through. Linked to that, no doubt, is the fact that the hangar doors seem to break for absolutely no reason. And they just get locked in one state or the other. I don't know whether that's visual or whether that's actually them locking in that state, but it's not good. It's a concern, certainly, if you are if you're an Idris owner. But there's that. So we'll see on the money front. There's a couple of Crusader ships I'm quite a fan of. I do like, because I'm just that way, is the C1 Spirit. The interesting bit that I don't understand here is why the C1 Spirit made it in for Fleet Week. Because it's a cargo ship. It's not a military ship. It's not even military adjacent. It's just straight up cargo. Anyone want to weigh in? Any idea? Money says socially. Yeah. The doors are getting an HP buff next patch. Yeah, they need to be. Their posted loss also had a lot to do with buying out Turbulent, but that loss will get reversed now because Turbulent is fully focused on RC. It kind of does and it kind of doesn't. So the remaining cost of buying Turbulent was about, I think they said 4 mil. So yeah. C1 might be. You're right, Chavez. It might well be. Yeah, if it's all available, that makes sense. But yeah. And again, the C2, again, possibly always available. Yeah, no, I noticed that. The Red Stunner, the welcome in, by the way, and hello to Luke as well. Yeah, that was the other. Zeus being RSI, Luke. But yeah, did the MR not make it? I think it's the MR, the Mark, the Bounty Hunter version. Did that not make it in? No, I can't remember now. It's just been ships on ships on ships on ships. There are so many of them. I didn't look specifically on RS Day, but not the ES or the CL. Yeah, absolutely. So it may well be. I can't remember what the constant sale ships are, but it may well be that is the reason that they are there. But you are right. The Tumbril, the Rangers, the much anticipated ground bikes, did not make it in. The ones that are on the front of the complete pack, I think. Or it's one of the images at least, they didn't make it in, other than the complete pack itself. So, yeah, that one. Those. Ta-da! Bikes. But yeah, again, interestingly, those didn't make it. I guess clearly they are a civilian enterprise from Tumbril, or for the civilian market, and not for the not for the military. Military have obviously gone, nah, don't need those. Was that? I want my Ranger, but the ground physics is still crap. That's exactly. Oh, I would imagine that's exactly why they've not been put in. I don't think they're waiting on any other tech, are they? Maybe it's the whole being on two wheels and not falling over stuff. It's like the Grand Theft Auto, isn't it? When you're on the bike, you just kind of seem to have some sort of invisible string holding you upright until you actually hit something. But yeah. That's it. I mean, there's not much really in there to kind of talk about. As we've said, for those that have come in, I noticed the viewing numbers have jumped for a bit. There seems to be no news yet where they said they were post news on the Idris limited sale they said was coming back. I'm guessing that's going to come back in for the final bit. For the final days, whatever and whenever they are. But yeah, remaining days, we have Anvil Aerospace on the 23rd, 24th, Drake on the 25th, and then 26th, 27th. I guess that may be where it comes in then. Yeah. Anvil Aerospace, obviously, rising above with the Asgard dropship. That, I think, they're probably relying on to take them over the line. Because as we saw on the funding tracker a little while ago, they were significantly ahead of any previous year at the end of April. They appear to have completely lost that surplus, and now they're sitting round about the level of the last 4 years. The last 3 years, this being year 4. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. The war bonds, unfortunately, continue to be underwhelming. Now, what we do know is on the 26th and the 27th, there are going to be some more CCUs offered, war bond CCUs, that were not offered during the rest of the event. So if you are waiting for something, it may, and you haven't seen it for your ships, or it doesn't come for the ones that you are still waiting for, it may well be that we get them then. We can only hope. You know, if it's something that you want, then I hope it does appear for you. Yeah, I wonder whether there's going to be some sort of surprise Drake. Ta-da! Because of course, whilst I completely understand Neil's idea that like, Jake large refining ship, of course it's not military, so it's very unlikely at Invictus. It's not going to happen at Invictus. So yeah, it would have to be some sort of military concept, which is interesting. I think I'll grab a Centurion CCU on Anvil Day. I've been wanting to get the idea, and I like CCU options. Nice, credit only, absolutely. So yeah. Precision targeting will help the new weapon size nerf for cap ships, etc. Yes, it looks like, you know, that's going to be the case for, you know, that staged combat of get in, get the shields down, and then knock the, you know, try and knock the PDCs and start then, or get through the armor, get at the PDCs, get at the components, that sort of stuff. It's good, you know, it's going to be a staged fight, and it's going to be quite fun watching, you know, people being able to repair from the inside. You know, knocking out cap ships will, in relatively short order, as far as CIG is concerned, be knocking one out is going to be quite the achievement. At the moment now, where people are abandoning them, do you know what I mean? The amount of abandoned Polaris we saw, but you know, the reclaim timers at the moment are not to be sniffed at. For the Idris, it's a long old time. So 3 hours 20 minutes, something like that, to reclaim them. I don't know if they're expedited or not. I'm hoping not expedited, but yeah. Precision targeting locked behind the skill wars. Yeah, that'll be it next one. It'll be the precision targeting blade. Lol. But yeah, Mr. Will, welcome in, sir. Do you think it's worth the upgrade, the Redeemer to the TAC? I think it depends on what you're doing and how many people you've got, right? The TAC does what the Redeemer does on a much larger scale. So, and again, I'm making no money judgments. I'm only making game judgments here, right? I don't advise people on money, just in case you weren't aware. I only advise on what's in the game. The Redeemer plus landing people, right? A lot less people involved. So I would more go on how many people do you think you're going to be playing with. You know, what role is it going to have in your org, if that's the role that it's going to be. If you're talking there's only going to be 4 or 5 of you, even the Redeemer, to get maximum use out of those guns, or even, you know, reasonable use out of those guns, plus land a ground element, with 5 people, you're pushing it. 2 or 3 on the ground, the Redeemer's then really, you know, you could do the same with a Sentinel, or sorry, with the Hoplite, potentially. So yeah, I think that's where it is. You know, if you want a ship that's going to give you options, or you want to run it like a C-130, right? So what you do is you put all your crew into one side of the TAC. The med bay obviously is not to be sniffed at. The extra capability that rear bay brings you, especially in the light of this Atlas, whatever it is, monstrosity, forklift with guns monstrosity. I'm just gonna. That's a cool song, but it's something I've downloaded for something else. So that might be useful. You know, if you wanna have it all in one side, then you know you might get the same sort of use as you do the Redeemer. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm sure. I mean, I might have a stab at one if people are interested. But I'm sure even if I don't, there will be some very, very interesting videos on where dropships sit at the moment. You know, almost like a dropship tier list. You know, the TAC is very slow. It is very clearly trying to be an AC-130 gunship. And just kind of slow circles, because slow is better when you're yeeting ballistic rounds and hard rounds into the ground, or anything, you know, providing any sort of fire support, especially when it's close to friendly troops, because you don't want to be zipping over and nailing your own guys. So yeah, Trial Attack Fast, lots of people like it. Some have been very disappointed. Yeah, it's a shame that people get disappointed. It looks great from the video and that sort of stuff, and from walking around it. I quite like it. The closing, it's the small things for me with so many ships, but the closing of those turret doors, I just chef's kiss. I really like that. It's got a non-NATO, like almost like a Warsaw feel to it, a Warsaw Pact feel to it. Something that's a lot more maybe like Russian inspired. But yeah, I really like it. It was never supposed to be easy to kill a cap ship, a long time to be disabled. Yeah, exactly that. This is time to kill. This is cap ships running rather than being destroyed. And when a lot of more of these systems come in and we're able to repair them and all that sort of stuff, I expect a lot of the claim timers to go up by a not insignificant margin. Because they're talking all the time about they want it to be easier to go get your ship and get it repaired. So in terms of time and cost, they want you to be able to go somewhere, get a tug, like an SRV or whatever, go recover the wreck, go back and repair it, rather than just claim it. So I think you're going to talk significant amounts of time to do that. I've been thinking about dropships in their place in my fleet, says Tech. I have a Prowler, though it's currently melted, and I like the Centurion. I guess I lean towards the more specialist dropships. 100%. Sorry. Ugh. Blah, that's rude. Ugh. So yeah, massive fan of the Prowler, but for me it's an earning game. That the fact that you can get a Reclaimer, and I know they're completely different roles, but look at the size and the capability and the money earning potential of the Reclaimer for cheaper than you can get a Prowler. That's dropship tax, combat tax, and cool alien ship tax all at once. I'm going to earn it. Whatever I need to do, repgating it, I get it. I'm going to go earn it in game. Unless I suddenly find myself where I'm like, oh, I can achieve that and not lose any ships that I want from within my fleet. That. Boss says, I met with my Idris, was way too big and OP, and got my Polaris back. Interesting. So from the Idris back down to the Polaris. That's an interesting choice. But I'm pleased that you're happy to go back to the Polaris. The Idris is huge and incredibly involved to run. I look at it and I kind of worry, right? I'm kind of glad a little bit from one tiny aspect that they're changing the referral bonus, because my worry is when they bring the big ships out and they start getting that, and I start talking about fleet command modules and how that works from a naval perspective, I'm terrified that people are going to start passing my referral code around to try and get me a Javelin and the old one and go, there you go, bad, just prove it, put your money where your mouth is. So the fact that they're changing that is like a good thing, because I looked at the Idris and I went, running this feels like a job. Do you know what I mean? It's fine to split the weapons up into core targets and stuff like that, but when you start adding in the launching and recovering of aircraft, keeping it stocked, the engineering, maintenance, all that sort of stuff, it's going to be weird. Like, as a CO, you're going to need to know what's going on with all this stuff, and it's because it's going to, kind of help you make the decision as to whether or not you're going to go into combat. If your shield generator down because it's being maintained, or it's busted and it needs fixing, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be tough. I think what you're identifying there, boss, is I think that owning one of these ships doesn't make you capable of running them. Right. You might be able to play it, right? You might be able to jump on and people gun it. But you come up, you get one crew who's just doing whatever they want whenever they want, right? Versus an organized Idris. There's going to be no competition. The organized Idris is going to blow the disorganized one out of the sky every single time. It's just gonna rail it. So yeah. We'll see. Sorry to bore you. Yeah, sorry, buddy. I promise I wasn't yawning at you. Stunner says, love the outside look of the Star Lancer series, but not a fan of their interiors. It's Misk. like I realize I don't own a MISC ship. I really don't. I don't have one at all. So it's an interesting one. Wiggy says, "Hello, mate. I bought the raft again. Extra cargo grid was too good to refuse. Nice. I had the raft for a while. I ended up melting it for something, but it appealed to me for that smaller industrial or cargo gameplay as well. Appreciated it. Badger, the Jav might suit you more with your aversion to honourably going down with your command. Well, yeah. You know, they don't pay me enough to go down with the ship. You want me to go down with the ship? Pay me more. Hello, Carlton. In your opinion, what's the largest ship that should be reasonably soloable? So, it depends what you're doing with it, right? I don't have a problem with the idea of something like the Connie Taurus, the Corsair, something of that scale being soloed for cargo and stuff like that. It's just going to take a long time, right? And you are going to you run all the risks of not having those turrets manned. In terms of combat, there aren't many ships that I think, you know, if it's multi-crew, the minute you come down to just the pilot, you are, you know, and you're forsaking other seats, unless it's something that can slave everything to the pilot or AI blade, and of course we don't know how that works yet. It's not That's not an easy question to answer. Really good question. That's not a criticism of the question, but that's tough, right? You know, if you can blade something like the, you know, the Scorpius can blade its rear turret to the pilot, fine. We've already seen, I think, that the missiles slave to the pilot, great. You know, but even things like the MSR, you know, even if you could slave all of the turrets to the pilot, they're only going to be able to face forward. You can't shoot back, which instantly you take an MSR that isn't in that case, the MSR is going to win every, you know, the one with people in the turrets is going to win every single time against the one that doesn't. Because you can only face forward with it, right? So yeah, I think it, like I say, again, it depends what you're doing with it. You know, things like the mole could be soloable because you turn one laser on and aim it and, you know, set the power at wherever you want so you can control the majority of the power with the other laser. But again, it's the time that's going to take. Moving between seats, then getting back into the pilot seat and getting lined up and then moving back into the seats again. That's a tough ask. But, you know, these things like these Polaris, Idris, all that sort of stuff, absolutely not soloable. They shouldn't be. You know, we've seen a bit of a push now for a lot of ships to get that previously didn't have pilot controlled weapons to have pilot controlled weapons. And I think if I'm, you know, without wanting to set the cat amongst the pigeons too much, I think that is why at the moment the Idris, the lasers and the torps, you know, and the railgun are all pilot controlled. I'd be surprised if it stays that way. I think they might get separated, and that's just through looking at the Polaris, right? Polaris pilot and torps have been separated, and I would imagine it to be the same. Also, that beam weapon needs to lose its auto aim. That needs to be a direct ahead, and you keep the ship on target. This being able to go and then firing for whatever it is, like, you know, 20 seconds or whatever that beam's on, that needs to change as well. It needs to be in shorter. Same amount of damage, shorter periods of time. Because the level of skill to land all of your railgun shots versus the level of skill to keep that beam, they're polar opposites. Miss one railgun shot and you will struggle to keep up massively with the beam weapon on the Idris. So yeah. I've only got a capital ship once I filled my BMM with space cats. Oh god, the smell of Wiggy. I just know. So that's going to be a hell of a litter tray, my friend. So yeah, you know, the torp controller's going into the cockpit. Yeah, but is it being controlled by the pilot or is it being controlled by someone else? You know, because again, these big ships are not supposed to be. A lot of people don't talk about this, says Jay Grizz. But what's to stop a player that has hours a day to play from soloing a Polaris with NPC crew? The number of NPC crew. the cost of NPC crew, and the time it takes to implement them. Because now I've only heard this from someone else. Right, I'm going to change back to full screen because it's great watching the same video over and over again. But that's that. I've only heard this, so I don't know directly, but I've heard someone say, I don't know what the source is, so please don't take this as writ, but I've heard someone say that AI crew aren't coming until after they've hit 1.0. Is anyone able to confirm? I don't know what the source is off the top of my head. I'd have to go and have a look. But we'll see. So yeah, and the question there is that, you know, how many NPC crew can you have reasonably? You know, what qualifications do they need to have? Are there industrial crew who can't go into military ships? Are there military crew who are useless in industrial ships? And so on and so on. CIG did say it. It was at the sitcom, was it? I can't remember now. I remember them saying the Endeavour was post 1.0. Yeah, great. So yes, so it is confirmed. Perfect. Yeah, so that's one part, is like, how long are you willing to wait to run your Idris? Second, like we said, how many are you going to be able to run, right? Because what they'll probably look at is they'll probably look at what players are making across the piece on average, and then maybe base the sort of prices that AI are charging not the same as that, but not too dissimilar. So running AI on your ship won't be too dissimilar in price to having buddies on there and splitting bounties and stuff like that. So you would think, right? Otherwise everyone's just going to hire NPC crew. Wiggy says, I reckon capital ships will just get more complex as development goes on. Some things will get easier, but crew will be optimal even NPCs are a thing. Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting, and that's one of the bonuses of playing now, is that because we see the development in stages, we learn how something works, and then we move on to the next thing. And sure, it will change, but you'll pick it up again pretty easily. Like, I haven't used the mining module since they brought them in, right? I've just gone mining laser, and to be honest, I haven't mined a lot in quite some time. So I can go and relearn that, but I know what the principles are, right? And I can figure out the interface even if the interface changes again. You know, I can get all that sort of stuff. I can look at things like the you know, the modules and figure out what they do without needing to go see a guide or someone explain it to me. We're going to do that. As they bring all these things in, one or two at a time, we're going to figure out what they are, right? You'd imagine now someone comes into the game and you want them in a week to explain how the game works. Not going to happen. Yeah? To explain your master modes and components and, you know, how the Hathor event works and how the Ghost Hollow event works and you know, all that sort of stuff. We're going to be learning these things as they come online. So it really is going to be a case of when people come in, the orgs, it's going to be inherited knowledge. It's going to be knowledge through YouTube, because I do not know how they create a learning package going into the game that gets people all the information they need to know. I don't know how they... And I'm not talking about like all the nuance and the here's a top tip. I mean just enough to do it. Other than that loop that they're implementing within 1.0 and the story and you know, like they talk at the tour bus. Okay, I'm going to go learn mining, so I'm going to go and visit one of the mining centres, and they're going to get me a little apprenticeship to be a miner and everything else, and you know. But yeah, it's going to take a long old time. And then bringing it all together with practice, that's where we as veteran code, you know, as backers will be able to come in and crew these things. So it'll be interesting. AO blades for specific tuning, NPCs for PvE, players for PvP. That's how I see it going. Yeah, and you know, Jamal, hello, buddy. Good to see you. You can never have enough badger. Truer word was never spoken, my friend. Grab yourself a golem. I still need to take mine out for a trial, but the reviews look promising. Simple, cheap, small, and gets the job done. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll see how that goes. And this is one of the really interesting things. They said, yes, you can use a cap ship as your daily driver. They never said that it would be economical to do so. Right? because the first thing we saw is after that video was posted on Spectrum. They said it. They said it. Yeah, they never said you'd make millions doing it. Right? We've only got to look at, I think, when the Polaris first came out and people were being hit for $1.5 million repair bills, and you know your rearm bill was something similar and all that sort of stuff. I think that was their intent for cap ships, and they might have dropped that down a little bit for the time being. I know the Idris seems to be nowhere near that to repair at the moment. But yeah, I think it's going to be very expensive to run them. I'm a doom a bit. The pledges, the sudden Idris release on paper thin reasoning, the private investor who spat in 10 mil recent CIG. I'm starting to ponder if they're running dry. Yeah, I don't think that's the case, right? I really don't think that's the case. The CIG UK has sat on about 19 mil from the British government. They can recall it pretty much any time. It's 19 mil they can just re-inject. That's from their financials. That was from a couple of years ago. Maybe they've done that. We haven't seen their financial reports from the last couple of years. All we've seen is the crowdfunding matrix. But you know, we'll see. We'll see what comes of it, and you know, I don't think the Idris is something that was unplanned. I think you don't release a ship like that unless it's planned. It just we just weren't told about it. So yeah. Yeah, that's it. And I mean the sitcom thing. When they made that announcement, it was the first thing I said watching that stream. I watched that stream, and on the Sunday live stream afterwards, I said, what are they going to put in a sitcom? If they're not developing things at anywhere near the pace as what they've been doing before, sitcom will be light, right? It won't be a raft of new features like we've seen kind of every single sitcom for quite some time. So it'll be interesting to see, like I said, you know, what they're coming out with. They said it'll still be packed with features. It just won't be in person. There's still going to be something. They're still going to show stuff off. It's not enough to fill 2 days like we've had. And, you know, 2019 we had 1 day CitizenCon, 2018, 2017, you know, it's been 1 day. It's only been the last couple they've had enough to put into 2. So yeah, it's definitely, I wouldn't go, you know, ringing the alarm just yet. Use an M2 as a home ship, go mining, come back for drop-off seems the way to go. Hoping the small RSI mining ship they concept will fit in the Hark or at least in the Galaxy. Depends on what you're doing, says Artec. If you're doing capital level missions in your capital ship with your merry band of NPCs, you'll be able to afford it. If you've got, you know, again, depending on how many NPCs you can employ. One of the interesting things that I saw in that report that came back from Star Citizen Beijing, one of the things that was not said at the video was apparently said afterwards is that additional game accounts would be required for additional characters and additional NPCs. Now, whether that means, you know, I'm not saying that means it's one NPC per account. Unlikely. It will be a number of NPCs per account. But if that's the way they go. Of course, again, I know people tend to get quite het up at things like this. The thing I will say again, for people to bear in mind, is what Jared always says. They reserve the right to have a better idea. So just because they have something intended or something is said now, it does not mean that that's going to be the case down the line. So, you know, like with everything, do you know, there's something that marks you out as a complete lunatic in this game, in my eyes, right? The only mad thing you can do in this game, other than buy one of the chuffing great packages, the only mad thing you can do in this game is assume things will stay the way they are now. Why? At this level of development, we got 2 systems in. We've only just scraped 1 in this year. We've got so many systems missing. We've only just got static server meshing in. It's mad to think things will stay the same. Everything is going to be in flux. So, just bear that in mind. Glad you seem optimistic. Oh, I'm glad that you're glad. But yes, like I say, it's we'll see. But I'm not stressed about it at the minute. If you're doing PvE missions in a cap ship full of friends having to split payouts, you probably won't afford that ship. caps for players will be assets to commit to PvP when you need to. Possibly. Although, like I said, I think they'll probably look at what a player's earning per hour, and then they'll take a reasonable figure of that, and then go, okay, we'll knock it down a little bit because NPC crew are unlikely to be as good as human crew. We'll knock it down. And then that's what we'll expect them to do per hour, because what they, this is supposed to be a social universe. They keep talking about, and they keep making events where they put players in the same space and allow that emergent gameplay to happen, right, and all that stuff to roll out of it. So for them to willingly put in a system where it just means it's far simpler and easier than the norm to run with NPCs rather than people seems a bit daft. The flip side of this is obviously if the big ships, if they're struggling, if people are going, what are we supposed to do with this? It's impossible to crew them up. I mean, part of that is, well, they told you what the crew requirement was well before as you bought it, but we'll see. We'll see. NPC employment is an interesting one. Like, do you lose them or respawn them on death? Do you pay while not using them, etc.? Yeah, that. Where are they? Where are they stored? Do you have to go and round them up? Do you have to do some sort of like Serenity-esque, go pick them up from all the outposts you've left them at? Don't know. Good question. And again, like we said, not an answer we're going to get, not a question we're going to get an answer to anytime soon, because not coming until after 1.0 at the moment. I've got an M2 and rather a C2 for it. Yeah, that'll be a significant downgrade in terms of cost tech, depending on what CCU shenanigans you played. But yeah, get that 100%. That's the old game package per NPC to negate the cost of the NPC. They just reconfirmed it. I don't think they did reconfirm it. I think that was in a list of bullet points that had the heading, or that basically had the descriptor at the top. This is what was talked about after, when everyone was drinking and the conversants weren't speaking, don't have the same first language. Until I see it in a video, until I hear it come out of the mouth of a CIG employee in an official capacity, I don't buy it. In any direction, I don't buy it. So yeah, in my opinion, the larger cap ships as Jedi Drifter, like in Idris, is more of an org ship, 100%. Org party of friends, it'd have to be a big party of friends. We had 12 when we tried this on last Friday on DGP, link down in the Discord. But we had 12, and we weren't manning the remote turrets. Not all of them anyway. As we broke turrets, people went down there, but that was that. And that was before you considered fighters and engineering and everything else. It's a big old commitment, that thing. Arctic says, my hope on cap level PvE is that they have payouts to encourage fleets and multi-crewing ships. Hopefully no splits on payouts, but instead full payouts per party member in the mission. Yeah, potentially. I guess it's all going to depend on the economy itself, and that's going to be the trick with it. It's with Quanta, they're trying to simulate an actual economy. So they've got to look at the effect that that's going to have on the game. I guess if you're going to turn those cap ship missions into much longer, so they're earning this, a not disproportionate amount compared to other things, then fine. I've always played MMOs for over 2 decades, says T-Jack. A lot of non-MMO players tend to think it's easy to always be crewed up completely 24/7. I'll just use that phrase, T-Jack, if that's all right with you. But it's like it's a second job. It's not going to always be easy. NPCs come to this. Yep, not arguing the case for NPCs or not NPCs, just saying that this is some of the factors that we might consider. The point that I keep coming back to is people say, well, I'm just going to crew my $1,500 spaceship with NPC crew. That's not confirmed. So if people are spending $1,500 on that basis, it's a pretty shaky premise, and that's my only concern with it. They said they're working on capital ship gameplay and missions. They have. Cap level payouts will get better once Nyx is in, since the Vandal bounties will be available then, I'm hoping. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Can't wait to see the Vandal in game. I just don't hold out hope that that's going to be anytime soon. Wiggy's up to 25 ships now in my fleet. I might have a problem. No might. No might, sir. No problem. I mean, Jesus is a hobby, right? If you can't enjoy it, if you've got the money to spend on it and you're happy to spend it, and you're not eating, beans on toast for the rest of the year, enjoy. No judgments in here. It's confirmed it's just going to be very expensive, so much so that most won't be able to do it. I don't think it has been. My answer to that when normally talking Discord is link the video. And if people can't find the video, I'm like, great, well, I'm not going to take it as a written thing, as something that they've confirmed. The other things are, I can show you the written thing that said planets will be a dedicated landing zone. There will be a cutscene that takes you down to the planet. I could show you that now if you like, because I've actually got it saved on one of my tabs. But, again, it being said once, we reserve rights to have we reserve the rights to have a better idea, is what I always come back to on that. And the fact that they haven't talked about it in such a long time, makes me cautious. I'm not saying, again, just to clarify, I'm not saying that I don't think it should happen. What I'm saying is that's a very old promise with a lot of change happen for people to be making large financial decisions. If my suggestion would be that if you're considering, if the only way you can run one of those big ships is with NPC crew, maybe do the CCU chain, only get it if you would be happy to melt it later and turn it into something else or a bunch of other things. That would be my thing. So here we go. So I just want to show this just to show people what the point of what I'm saying. So this is, and I will link this in chat in just a moment. So he's talking about traveling around. Okay. I'll just read it out just in case you're not able to read it yourselves. So this is what they said. This is on the RSI website. This process is continued until you reach your final destination, which in my example would be Terra, where I'd use my comm system to negotiate a landing slot. This would take me down to the planet service via an in-engine cinematic. Once planet side, I'll be able to sell my cargo, replenish my supplies, and look for new opportunities via the third-person planet side interface. And clearly that's been replaced now, but that is on the website. I'll just link that. It's a little way down. You're looking for the picture of the Bengal, basically. It's a block of text just above the last picture in the article, because it's a big old article, right? But I'll just in case you wanted to have a look at that, I'll post it in the chat. So it's an interesting one, yeah. And the reason I show it, just to be clear, is to illustrate they say things and then they change. And this is obviously it getting better, because now we have fully rendered planets that are explorable on a scale that is frankly staggering for a computer game, right? One of those planets is ridiculous. Even 5 systems just begins to boggle the mind. The fact that they want to end up at 110, I think it is mental. Will they ever get there? Don't know. But yeah. But I agree, coming in with the thought that you'll destroy the whole verse in your tighty-whities at the Captain's Bridge is crazy work. I like my tighty-whities. But no, exactly that. SC is cheaper than buying a new car, as I recently found out again. Oh, mate, I'm sorry. Well, hopefully it's a fun thing getting the new car. I hope it wasn't because the bottom fell out of the old one or whatever. But yes. So yeah. Last time we talked about NPCs was in 2020 at the Ask Me Anything with CR, Pappy, and Tony Z. Yeah, I'm going to have to go and watch that again, I think. Only thing I found on NPC Crew was it was locked to game pack, says Aeronage. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I do apologise, my friend, if I am. But welcome in. I don't recognise the name, but I'm glad you could be with us. You've got a purchase at 65%. Nice. Chef's kiss. Phil Nelson says they also reserve the right to have a worse idea. Mate, never a truer word spoken. And they've proved that. on a number of occasions. Pilgrim says, with CCU training, I've managed to get a Nautilus at 25% compared to the current store price. Mate, even more chef's kiss. Nicely done. Wiggy says, the old version of what the PU would be, lol. Yeah, it's freelancer, right? It's a freelancer style model. That's what it struck me as, having played that back in the day. I guess they'll have to commit to plans for NPC crew before 1.0, or they'll be asking people to lock in their fleets without knowing what they can really use. Spoiler, I don't think this is going to change. This selling ships, I just think it's going to persist. I know they said the CCU game will end. Don't know if that's going to happen either. I think they're basically going to get to the point and say, look, this is the server demand. You have a choice. This becomes a subscription model, or we continue to sell ships. And I think that's what's going to happen. I can't imagine how else they're going to fund the game, right? They've proved, at least at the moment, the subscription model that they do, as in like the game subscribers, there's not a great deal of value there at all. And the numbers bear that out, because the numbers are steadily falling. From a high during COVID, and okay, that could be due to that very phenomenon, but yeah, I don't know a lot of people who rant and rave about the subscriber program. I do it when I want something from the subscriber store, and that's pretty much it. Wiggy says, I think ship sales may be replaced with ship packs for a subscription eventually, since logical capitalistic choice. I mean, the bottom line is, whatever way they go, it's going to cost a lot of money to keep all those servers running, especially if they're dynamically spinning them up to meet demand, because it means you need servers at least on standby, because they've got to agree with Amazon, look, we need X number of servers that can deploy at a very short notice, in case suddenly gamers all decide to log on one day and just really stress the servers out. So it's not just the ones that are on, they're going to have some sort of kind of like, hey, we need X number immediately available to the game. Artek says, there was a Star Citizen live about a few months ago where Jared did go into detail with the devs on being able to solo big ships, and Jared made a clear distinction on solo, solo, and solo with NPCs. Yeah, I mean, you'll probably be able to move it from A to B, but you won't be able to do much else on the solo front. There used to be someone on Spectrum called RB Seaton that could tell you about anything CIG ever said with multiple references. And that's kind of useful. And this is the problem is that I would imagine he had references, you'd look into some things and they start contradicting each other. And, you know, this is why I think the attitude that I take, and I strongly recommend it for anyone, is that everything is subject to change. And if you're making decisions dependent absolutely on something remaining the same and not changing at all, I'd suggest maybe not making those decisions just yet. Those are decisions for a little further down the line. Even if you miss out on Warband and whatever else. Unless you are more than happy to spend that cash and just have it sat there, and then if it doesn't pan out, to turn it into something else. If you're sat there going, I'm only going to buy that ship, and I don't want anything else, and if that ship doesn't do that thing that they talked about years ago, then I don't want it, probably really spend some time thinking about whether or not you're willing to invest that money. Because, yeah. So there's that. Hemrick, hello, buddy. The War Bonds ship skin packs seem to be the new strategy. Yeah, I mean, these kind of ideas of kits, like, you can see how this is paving the way for when we get armor and we get, like, the tank and the sniper and the bounty the hunter and all that sort of stuff. You can see those, hey, you can buy that and bring it in game. You can see that they're kind of going that way. They've talked about profession, so when they bring hacking in, you'll get a hacking kit, and when they bring exploration in, the FPS scanning, you'll get that sort of stuff. And you'd think that, or at least those are the opportunities, or some of them that exist. They'll never change selling ships. CCU game will get down to maybe saving you 10 to 20% on your ships through war bonds, but the savings are getting lower and lower every event. Yeah, and as we said with this one, it wasn't particularly great. I wasn't bowled over by it. sorry, words are just failing me at the minute. The Starfarer Gemini one, I feel like they could have probably knocked that down a little bit more. Certainly not chuffed with the Crusader Ares one, the Ares Inferno. It's, whatever. But yeah, A to be solo, but doing things solo with NPCs. Yeah, exactly that. They even changed the color palette on ship skins they've sold. So there's no hope on expecting anything to be consistent. Exactly. Yeah. John Chavez is still in the middle of the massive sigh. They decided not to do that Pac-Man mini game for hacking. Yeah, I mean, those sorts of mini games and stuff, I quite like that sort of thing. Something that you've got to do, which, is not just hold a beam at something. If hacking is another beam thing, I think I'm going to have something to say about it. Because, repair, beam, salvage, beam, mining, beam, healing, beam. They can do better, and they should be doing better. I get it. The idea of welding, you can say you're using a welding torch instead of a beam. Functionally, it's still the damn same thing, right? The only thing is whether or not you put a patch over it, but it's still point your beam at this thing and then go from there to there and then fix it, right? Whether you're welding the edges of the patch or whether you're spraying the armor back on. And why would we, back then, not have some sort of armor spray that fills the gaps, some sort of futuristic thing? I don't know, but yeah, lots of beams. It just works, TJ. Yeah, mate. Just such a bad excuse. Such a bad excuse. It just works. Yeah, great. It's boring as hell. So does tapping F and it just fixing itself. Doesn't make it fun. Just added a mini game in the mobiGlas for hacking. Yeah, absolutely. Or you zoom right into the panel and you've got to do something or connect stuff or even and I'm not suggesting they do this, but something similar to even that silly pipes game where you've got to connect the pipes ahead of the thing and the stuff and the whatnots. Was it Deus Ex Human Revolution had a pretty nice, nifty little hacking game that ran alongside it? I mean, that's quite a clever little idea. That might be worth looking at. I think it's Deus Ex. Have I got that right? Is that Deus Ex? I like the mining minigame of keeping the bar in the green. I just don't enjoy Pac-Man. Well, yes, quite. Is it? I'm pretty sure it's Deus Ex. Images. I'm just going to have a look. Yeah, there you go. I think I'm just going to load that photo up. At least I thought it was. Here, click. So that's like the Deus Ex like hacking minigame. So that was kind of cool. I'm okay with the hacking beam if it's like mining, but pipe game sounds fun. Yeah, anything like that. Just something to make it more than just click, hold, progress bar, done. Because good. Thing is, we've been waiting so long for these game loops that secting Beam Citizen is just something we put up with. Yeah, I'm pleased to see that at Con 42 they said that engineering they may well go back. They may go back if it's not sufficient and then look at those loops that are just beams. But yeah, I mean, I was hoping to be able to like do the whole. They showed with a satellite. I think it was 2016 Gamescom. They did a demo where you went to a down satellite and you had to find the circuit board. And like the idea that then you might be able to go to a component and pull out the rack and like visually inspect the circuit boards to find one that's damaged and then pull that out and then replace it with another board of the same type, and then you have like a selection of boards across a selection of components. The more rare the board, the component, the more board types you might need, or the more specialized board types you might need. And then it comes down to knowing where on a component you open it up to get the boards out and pull out, withdraw, push back in again, that sort of stuff. Could have had a lot of fun with that, or anything along that sort of those lines. Speaking of beams, after watching the TAC commercial, I've come to realise we need splash damage type munitions for air-to-ground damage. Shoot a troop with a size 5 laser is bad. We need plasma or napalm. Nothing like a bit of war crimes, but yeah, some sort of high HE round would be good. Hacking in Eve is cool too. I've not seen it in Eve, Artek, but I'll have a look. Hacking minigame will just be Candy Crush. Get out, Limited. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back in. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. T-Jack says something that spreads the damage as a damage over time too. Yes, so Plasma's doing that, isn't it, to hulls? Whether that extends to people, don't know. Hope so, because it would make sense, right? If it's going to splash on the hull and then continue to eat through, you'd expect that to happen to individuals. But yeah, maybe erode like the damage resistance that you have, and you can kind of see it all being plasma eaten and stuff, which isn't as daft as they say with all the damage overlays and stuff. They're obviously doing it for armor, as in ship armor. No reason they couldn't do some sort of similar overlay to partial armor as well. So yeah, hey Stack, good to see you, my friend. Aranaj, I agree. Lots of games have hacking gameplay they can take inspiration from. Cyberpunk, Deus Ex Eve, exactly that. Yeah, Hyper Vanguard Force minigame. We're getting a little bit silly now, but yes, yeah. You've got to complete a round of Fortnite to repair your components. But yeah, I get it. It's raining and then it's gone sunny, so now all the bugs are out again. What happens in Nam stays in Nam. Cheltenham, TJ. Dagenham. But yes, purchase custom ammunition. We'll probably have to sell my regenerated livers to pay for a rearm. Absolutely, yeah. That'll be the next thing. Will be cash for ammunition reloads. 100%. So yeah, again, underwhelming in terms of there's no concepts and the war bond. I think if they'd done a nice war bond with a tasty discount, it would have kind of made these days interesting. And great that people are getting to rent the ships that they want to try and all that sort of stuff. Perfect. It's really good that people are getting to do that. But from our perspective, who've been around the block a few times, who've seen most of these ships in, yeah, there's not much to keep drawing us here. I guess keep running around the expo hall, keep finding your scripts, keep doing the Hunt the Polaris stuff, and yeah, cash for cruise Lux. Oh God, no! Don't give them ideas. Stop it. That's right. I don't think any of them watch this anyway, so we're safe. We're safe. But yeah, it's been kind of a bit of a slow one. Hoping that Anvil. We're going to get the Asgard, hoping that is priced at a point where it seems reasonable compared to all of the other dropships we have, because this is definitely seems to be the ILW of dropships. The fact that we now have two. Maybe something surprising at Drake. More Idris is on sale, I would imagine, around about the finale, which is 26th, 27th, which is what days are those? Oh God, that's a Monday and a Tuesday. Well, the Monday shouldn't be too much of a problem because it's my day off. So, ta-da, I'll be here for that as well, and I will be here for the next one, which is the Anvil Aerospace on the 23rd. So 2 days from now, I'll be around for that one as well. So on the Friday, looking forward to seeing you all there, streaming as normal. 16:45 UK time. That's 4:45 in normal speak. To talk about through all this stuff, and then I will be streaming a little bit on Sunday night, 9 PM. If you want to join the Discord, you know where it is down below. And I very rarely say this, but I'm going to say it now. If you've enjoyed, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. You know what to do. I don't need to tell you. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.